Hello everyone, welcome back to the D3D4 Quickfire reviews. I'm delighted to be joined by Luke Penning. We're going through the Ipswich Town season that has been 2020-21. A mixed bag, it's fair to say. I'm sure Luke will reveal all, but let's start, Luke, with the first question. How has your team performed against pre-season expectations?
I think that, you think back on last season for Ipswich, we finished 11th with PPG, finishing just below Gillingham. I think coming into this season, there was, I guess, optimism on wanting to improve on last season's result. But at the same time, with our form last season from January onwards, at the time, a lot of fans were not really on the side of Paul Lambert. So coming into when this season started, they partly thought that the season being cut short kind of partly saved his job. So, we'll get onto it later about transfer business, but not much really happened in the summer in terms of squad churn and bringing new people in. So it was more or less the same squad that we had when we were more or less relegated from the Championship that were then expected to step up after not really showing it the previous season. In all, I think, in terms of expectations, we're falling way down on what I expected, what many people expected, really. But at the same time, we've shown ourselves to be a mid-table, I guess, top half League One side with maybe players and personnel that we're maybe rating a bit too much to expect things from. But
I think
I think
recent comments in the media have certainly expressed that, hasn't he? He's been pretty damning of some of the players. But who's been your best player if you had to pick one out of what is, I suppose, considered a bad lot?
Yeah, I think it is a hard one. You look at the beginning of the season, we had Florian Edwards and Teddy Bishop amongst the goals every other week, and that was when we had a 12 or 11 game run at the beginning of the season, win and run. Much like the season beforehand, they were the two players that were more or less getting the goals every week. Now we look back when we're here in April, and those players still haven't scored goals since October. So you look at those as players that started well but weren't able to replicate that. Something that we have missed a lot is the goals of people like James Norwood, who unfortunately, since coming to join us on a free from Cheltenham Rovers, hasn't been as fit as much as we really needed him. I think when he's come in and has played, he's given us goals. Right before Paul Lambert was sacked, I think he scored in 4-5 games. And obviously hamstring injuries meant that he hasn't been able to play as much this season. So I think in terms of best player, I wouldn't say that there's a standout player, because I think, with how the team's performing, there hasn't been that consistent player. But I think if we're looking for someone to go on, I would say someone like James Norwood. But obviously, with the injuries that are there, is a bit of a question mark as well.
Who's your best signing then? I know you didn't do a huge amount of transfer business, but is there any one that you're happy with?
Yeah, it's a strange one, really, because I'm quite into my transfer recruitment. I came into the summer. We signed Stephen Ward, Ollie Hawkins, and David Cornell on free transfers, and brought in Mark McGuinness, Luke Matheson, Luke Thomas, and Keenan Bennett and Troy Parrott. To be fair, out of the loanees, none of them have really kind of shown it for me. Mark McGuinness came in as his first senior loan from Arsenal. Luke Matheson came in, I think, as genuinely as backup cover for Luke Chambers, with Genoid Dinassian going out on loan to Fleetwood Town. And Luke Matheson himself has been injured and only really made 2 appearances for the club.
Yeah, it's such a shame, because he's a good, bright young player. So
Keenan Bennett came in from Borussia Mönchengladbach on loan. We're not really used to seeing players come over from Germany on loan, but at the same time, he's kind of flattered to deceive. He likes to be direct in terms with the ball, but it's always the final bit of it which isn't always there. So he goes for the cross and it's 40 yards wide. He goes for the shot, it's wide again. I think it is a hard one, but I think if you look back to something that Ipswich I feel has lacked over recent years is leaders throughout the team, players of experience. We've relied so heavily on people like Luke Chambers to carry the captain's band and be that kind of leadership member throughout the squad. So in the summer, when we did sign Stephen Ward, as much as, throughout the period of the season, due to Kane Vincent-Young being injured and Miles Ken not being favoured, we did get this reputation for playing aging fullbacks at Luke Chambers at 35 and Stephen Ward at 36. But even though, as well as starting the season well, and obviously hasn't featured quite a lot under Cook, but hadn't featured that late under Lambert. But at the same time, I think that's kind of a good sign, in my opinion, in the sense that maybe not so much.
Maybe leadership, yeah.
Yeah, maybe not so much on the field, but the off the field aspects that he adds to the club. I would have expected us to maybe gone on and signed players, but I think coming up until this summer, which I'm pretty sure I'll get on to, there's a lot more optimism, overhaul, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think if you're looking towards, trying to pick a best player or best qualities, I think Stephen Ward, in terms of his leadership off the field, is probably one that I'd say.
Yeah, not a glowing review, but
no.
There we go. What about the opposition player? Any one opposition player has impressed you more than anyone else?
Yeah, I've got a couple, to be honest. I thought of those that I've seen, I tend to watch quite a lot of lower league football when I can. So players that I've seen this season that have impressed me. I kept a lot of eyes on Pantuche Kamara last season at Crawley before moving to Plymouth. Mm-hmm. So seeing him this season, whether it be through iFollow, he kind of showed me a lot of what he did at Crawley to Plymouth. Two other players, kind of obvious ones really, but Charlie Kirk at Crewe, a player that I really want Ipswich to sign, but at the same time, a very good wing-up goal threat, assist as well. Another one, central midfielder, Ollie Rathbone of Rochdale. Quite like watching him play, kind of that tenacious, combative midfielder, likes to get in and do a bunch of different things. So, yeah, they're three in terms of opposition players that I've enjoyed or interested in watching.
Any opposition team that you've think it's been the best that you've seen this season?
Yeah, I think I said this last season, and I said it the same. I think Peterborough. I think that the way they operate as a team, the way they operate as a club in general, from recruitment and the way they set up. You've got people like Sakiri Dembele, Sammy Schmodix, Johnson Clark-Harris, people like Jack Taylor, who they brought in from Barnet. Yeah, they've got a great mould of players in their team, which clearly shows if the ethos of the team come from the owner to the manager to the playing squad, and they know their way of playing. I think that in terms of the on the eye, the ones that I've liked, I've also, beginning of the season as well, I like Plymouth. I like how they went about things. I've always, in a similar way, kind of had a soft spot for Accrington because they're so drilled into what they do, and they've been a squad tight knit for so long amount of time. But I think if there was like the obvious one, I'd probably say that as Peterborough.
What about a team that's not impressed you at all?
Yeah, I'd probably say Bristol Rovers. Generally this season, like most of the teams, even those that are lower down the league, we've actually ended up losing and we haven't done that well. But the side that I watched, Bristol Rovers just looked all over the place at points. I think, they had was it Graham Coughlan? He left, had someone else, and then they've got Joey Barton now, and I think it's a weird stage for them as a team because I guess from recruitment you could say they've gone a bit wrong in some ways because you're expecting Jonah Inga from Havant and Waterlooville to step up from the National League North or South, to step up to League One, obviously after selling Clark-Harris to Peterborough, and they just didn't recruit well, and I think that was part of it.
That was a massive problem, wasn't it? Yeah, they didn't have a striker. What I'll ask you now is, though, in terms of, it's not been a great season for Ipswich. So what's the worst moment been for you?
I think there's a lot of them. I think to recent times, the last week, we've lost 3-0 to Wimbledon, 3-0 to Northampton. But I think for me, as a Town fan this season, where it changed for me was, I think it was Paul Lambert's last game in charge. Well, second to last game in charge. It was a Tuesday night, and it was 0-0 draw with Northampton. I think
that must have been a thriller.
Yeah, as a Town fan, going into that game on, I think at that time there were local fan group Blue Action were protesting against the owner. There was all this, Lambert out stuff. I think the local newspaper had called for him to be sacked and relieved from his duties. So that whole week had stuff going on outside, and I think as fans we wanted to, hope for us on a Tuesday night that we go into a game at home under the lights and expect to get some positivity, maybe a 1-0 win. But with the way it went, it wasn't that way. And I think for me, that was probably the lowest point. Yeah, the lowest point of the season for me.
I still think I know what this might be, but I mean, it's been a season where at least there has been some positives.
Yeah, I think for me, it's more off the field stuff than actually on the field itself. I think with a couple of things, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, Paul Lambert, him, his time at Town just wasn't successful, and he went on. We got in Paul Cook. I think that's a positive thing for the future. Obviously, in the room you got the takeover, the Americans taking over Ipswich Town, and the optimism.
Many years of
16 years of decline under Marcus Evans. Getting them come in, people who are, had them appear on fan podcasts. We've had them chat to local media, be as open with us on social media. And I think that's something that us as Ipswich Town fans have wanted for so long, to be able to communicate and see owners that get the club. At Phoenix Rising, the club that they're at before, they basically built the club up from the bottom. They got key people involved in key positions. We've already got, as I said, Paul Cook involved now, and Mark Ashton coming from Bristol City, who's had a good career in getting people in specific roles. Because when Marcus Evans was here, he liked to be a lot hands-on himself and wouldn't necessarily employ the people into the roles who were specifically qualified for them. So I think in terms of a positive thing, looking forward to a summer of change. We've got around 19, 20 players out of contract in the summer, and overhauls expected with players coming in, money to spend in transfer windows, something that we haven't really been used to in recent times. Even under Mick McCarthy, it's more the kind of free transfers and loans. It's going to be an exciting year, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's going to be nice to see. One thing I would ask as well is, no one's been allowed to go to Portman Road. What have you personally missed most about attending matches? Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of like more the social aspect of it all. I'm one of those people that, just being amongst the fans and chanting and watching it like that. I think in a strange way, you get so used to watching it on iFollow at the moment. And I was lucky enough when we came out, not the most recent one, the lockdown beforehand, Ipswich ended up having a ballot for 2 games. It was Burton Albion and Portsmouth at home. I managed to get one of the ballot tickets to that and go to watch a live game of football. It was a very different experience. We ended up losing the game, but just to be there and just to get that atmosphere again. I'm one of those fans that, as well as going to home games, like to travel to away games and see new grounds and see new fan experiences. So to not be able to do that, I'll probably say that that's one of the things that I've missed.
A penultimate question then. Expectations for next season?
Yeah, I think I think if Marcus Evans was in charge, it was an owner and Paul Lambert still here, that kind of thing, I probably would have been a bit more pessimistic about things. But I think it's only right for me to have a degree of optimism about what's potentially going to happen. So you look at summer recruitment, a whole bunch of players leaving the club, new ones coming in. Been able to improve the infrastructure on the outside as well as on the playing squad.
Football properly, hopefully implemented.
I think that can be a good thing. I think, playoffs minimum, but just to be around it, fighting for promotion to the championship, that's my realistic expectations for next season, I think.
And finally then, using 3 words without swearing, sum up your season.
Yeah, I would just write down unachievable, unacceptable, and pessimistic. There's not many reasons to words to use really. I was going to stick the word optimistic on the end, more looking forward to next season. But yeah, they're those kind of words that have been used amongst the Ipswich Town fan base for a while, and are words that unfortunately over a long period of time have come to be associated to. So hopefully this summer and what's kind of come ahead is more of a step in the right direction.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Ipswich a great club, one that I enjoy watching growing up at a much higher level. And I think all the Ipswich fans will want to see them get back there. So let's hope that happens and a bright era does start with new ownership and under Paul Cook, who's a very good manager, let's be honest. Before you go, where can we find you on Twitter?
Yeah, so my Twitter is Luke Penning VGP. I post quite a lot about lower league recruitment, also things in relation to Ipswich Town Football Club. I post video on my YouTube channel, same name, Luke Penning. I've got a link on my Twitter page. And I generally post videos every couple of weeks about specific lower league, the recruitment targets for clubs and those kind of things. So yeah, that's where you can follow me on Twitter and online.
Yeah, excellent. I'll make sure you do that because I'm sure it's very interesting stuff. And it's been great talking to you, Luke, about Ipswich Town. Thank you for everyone who's watched this. Thank you for Luke for joining me. As you're probably aware, we're going to be pushing a few of these out over the coming weeks. So stay tuned for more. That's it from us tonight, though. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you again for another Quickfire review very soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.